Well, hello again, everyone. Todd Nelson again with the 501 Biz Masterclass series of Zoom calls that we are recording with experts in different areas of your role as a business owner, your role as a key decision maker in a business, and things that aren't often talked about. And it's coming from my personal experience. I'm trying to sell a business, build a business, start a business, all of those things. And I realized that I was so busy working on the business that I didn't have the opportunity to step back. And so this is what I want to give you as an opportunity. My name again is Todd Nelson. I'm a financial advisor that helps work with business owners as they are involved or getting ready to transition. And today is part two of our segment that we started when it comes to getting ready to sell your business. Some decisions. So we've asked John Howard with Alliant Capital Advisors to be with us. John, thanks again for joining us.
Good morning, Todd. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. This is such a key part of where I feel like I could have maximized the amount of money I got back out of my business when I sold it. That I think it's really, really important that we have a single episode dedicated just to this. So let's talk about that. We talked about your background in the first episode. We know you're very well qualified. And so let's talk about some important tips that you have for business owners that are wanting to sell their business.
Well, Todd, thank you again. And I would start out by saying in our first episode, we talked about two or three things, and I just want to bring those back up real quick without a lot of explanation. But motivation is important. A seller needs to have a reason for selling other than trying to get the most money that he can. Uh, it's best if there's a good reason. It can just be you're tired of that business and you want to start another one. It could be as simple as that, but there needs to be a reason for selling the business. It's best to have a succession plan in place. That you're not the face of the business, that there is somebody ready to step into your role, because a lot of buyers are strategic. They want to pick up a business that will run itself without you. Yep. That's very important. It's important that you have a staff that can live without you at some point. So that really goes back to the other point where you've got a succession plan in place and people are accustomed to taking orders, and clients are used to calling somebody besides you.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of business owners don't think about, it really helps in the end if you've got 3 years of continuous growth. I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about. Often they make the mistake actually of waiting until they have a down year. Because I'm going to reap these benefits while it's growing, and I'm going to keep doing this until it's not growing. Well, when it's not growing, obviously that's not the best time to sell.
Yeah. So talk to me. The 3 years, is that kind of a norm in as far as the due diligence part of a buyer wanting to come in? Is that kind of the norm as far as how far you might go back and look at that? What's the importance of kind of that 3 year?
A sophisticated buyer will be looking at the last 3 years primarily to see the exact position the company is in. They'll be very interested in things that go back several years, but the last 3 are probably the most important. And the most important about those 3 is that you're very, I almost said steady, that there be some growth. The business needs to look the same year to year to year with some growth. That's very important.
Yeah. Well, and I know from firsthand experience that how important that can be. I know, especially so we're talking businesses that are, maybe 25 employees or less, as far as this goes, but any business that is your own, you can have owners draws, you can have owners, compensation, return on capital investment. All of those things are important. But as you're getting ready to sell, those are things that in the 3 years prior, you might want to start to tweak, start to evaluate, because again, for in my personal example, and maybe you can tell me, John, if this is more or less standard, but they did a factor of EBITDA. And if you don't know what EBITDA is, maybe we'll talk a little bit with our CPA in that series on that. But they did a factor of EBITDA. And is that kind of a standard evaluation technique?
And depending on the size of the business, EBITDA and SDE, which is EBITDA with the seller's income added back.
I got you.
In addition
Okay.
to EBITDA. So SDE and EBITDA are the two most important factors, and normally every business sells on a multiple of that and not a multiple on revenue
Sure.
or potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's which is another really important point for a lot of business owners. People say, well, this business could be doing 3-4 more million next year than it's doing right now. The buyer's not interested in what they're going to do with the business after they pay for it. They're interested in what you have done already, and that's what they want to pay for.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I will say again, so, rehashing what you said, there is an extreme amount of importance that I would place if I were doing it again on making sure that I had a process in place, a some kind of a timeline for when you were going to sell the business, having that timeline in place several years beforehand. And then as you started to get towards that place, again, just really following John's advice and starting to look at your financials, because that is how the buyer is going to evaluate you. They're not going to, most of us are not going to be evaluated on what kind of goodwill do you have and what kind of, all of these intangibles. They're going to be like John said, on a factor of EBITDA and the SDE, and it's just as simple as that. We try to make it more
Yes.
complicated. You don't understand that, my business does this. You can't quantify that. You just can't.
No.
And so the only way to quantify it, John, is like you said, and I think that's some excellent material. So again, I'm going to have your show notes or your contact information in your show notes. But real quick, John, in the last 30 seconds of this particular call, who are the people that you think would get the most value from reaching out to you?
Anybody that owns a business at any stage in that business needs to have a broker involved and someone who's willing to work with them now to get ready for the day. If that day is next week, next year, 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. You need to be thinking about that all the time and getting good advice from somebody that you trust, somebody that is interested in helping you maximize your profits in your business and not just in making a sale and grabbing a broker. That's
And let me second that, John. If I would have had somebody like you, easily, when I sold my business, easily, I could have had tens of, if not hundreds of thousands more, just because I took some of the tips that you just gave me. So, excellent information. Again, thank you, John, so much. All your contact information is going to be in the show notes, and really appreciate you joining us on this episode.
Thank you very much.